So are you looking for a hidden gem of a neighborhood here in the beach cities of Los Angeles? Today I'm going to show you a secret neighborhood tucked away in the north corner of Manhattan Beach. Now, I'm Steve Enchin, your South Bay and Beach Cities source for real estate and neighborhood information here in the South Bay and Beach Cities of Los Angeles. And now, if they call Manhattan Beach the gem of the South Bay, then El Porto is a gem inside of a gem. Located at the very north end of Manhattan Beach, this small neighborhood offers a unique location and lifestyle with its own local shops, restaurants, and beach area. Now, like with any neighborhood, there are pros and cons to consider, and we're going to look at both as we drive around today, and I'll talk a little bit about history and discuss some of the important things to consider before moving here. So, let's get started. So as we get started, first thing I'm going to point out, for safety, don't worry, I'm not talking and driving. I'm dubbing in the audio afterwards so I'm able to focus 100% on driving the car. But as we get started with the drive, I want to point out some of the boundaries of El Porto. So the northern end boundary is going to be 45th Street, and that's the border with El Segundo. And then it curves down a little bit to 38th Street, and that was an old border that it shared with Manhattan Beach before it was incorporated. And then the east-west border on the on the east side is Crest Drive, and then on the west side, the border is the State Beach and the Pacific Ocean. Now, one of the things I want to point out, as you're going to be seeing here, of course, is sort of mentioned in the introduction, kind of the elephant in the room. And that is on the north side of El Porto, you have the Chevron oil refinery. It is always been there and always will be there. It is a defining part of the beach cities in the South Bay. It has far-reaching effects, even as far down as Manhattan Village and some of the other neighborhoods where the disclosures may include conversations about leftover environmental effects from the refinery. So it is an eyesore. It's not a great thing to look at. And if you feel that living near an oil refinery is not for you, then you probably want to avoid looking at properties in the north end of El Porto and possibly consider something further down south, maybe in the north or central part of the sand section, or maybe even the south part of the sand section, which would be south of Manhattan Beach Boulevard, well away from the oil refinery and any of its environmental effects. Now, for schools, the elementary school assigned to El Porto is going to be Grandview Elementary. And as we continue along here, one of the things I want to point out that you may notice in some of the videos as we go along is the traffic. If the very north end of El Porto, southbound traffic comes down at a fairly high rate of speed from Vista Del Mar Boulevard, which has a higher speed limit. And not everybody gets the hint that the new speed limit in Manhattan Beach is 25. So if you are considering the north end of El Porto as a place to live, sort of keep in mind that traffic as it transitions from Vista Del Mar onto Highland can take a few blocks to notice the signs and slow down. Now, in terms of lots, the way El Porto was set up way back in 1911, it was developed by a man named George Peck, and he set up pretty much almost identical lots, 30 feet by 90 feet, and they're all aligned between a street and an alleyway. And we're going to take an aerial view here where I can kind of show you how the lots are laid out. It's much easier to see from the air than it is from the ground. And typically the lots are still standard 30 by 90 unless over time there's been a division of the lot or possibly a combination with an adjacent lot. And then as we continue, we're going to head on down Highland here. And Highland is sort of the spine of El Porto. It is the middle of the section that contains all the businesses. So the shops, the boutiques, the restaurants, any of the service businesses, they're all located along Highland. And then Highland is the easiest way that you would follow, either to go northbound towards Playa del Mar and points north, or southbound down to Marine or down to Rosecrans, where you can get easy access to the freeway, or you can continue south on Highland. That'll take you to Manhattan Beach Boulevard, which is really the hub and center of all of the activity in Manhattan Beach. Now, as we hit Rosecrans, we're hitting the southern border for El Porto, and this is what's going to divide the Manhattan Beach neighborhoods from El Porto into the sand section. And as we've gone around here down Highland, I'm sure you've noticed some of the great shops and restaurants that are available. You really don't have to go far. You can find so many things to do, so many places to eat and drink and shop right here in the neighborhood. Now, as we drive down some of the alleys and the side streets here, a couple of things to notice. Probably pretty obvious. You can see that the streets, especially the side streets, are very narrow. So you're not going to see full-length driveways. You're not going to have any parking available. So if you have people over visiting, if you're hosting a dinner party, or you have people staying over, there are limited options for parking. Most likely it's going to need to be daytime at a public lot, possibly down at the beach, or if you have extra garage space that comes with your home. You have to be a little bit flexible, maybe a little bit creative in terms of where your guests are going to be able to park, because they can't park on the street and they can't really park in the driveway. And then the other thing to notice as we drive around, you probably have noticed that there's quite a few contractor vehicles out. This video was taken on a weekday in the afternoon. And, you know, El Porto, like any part of Manhattan Beach and the beach cities in general, is a community in transition. It's always reinventing as homes are renovated, as some homes are taken down and replaced with new homes. So there's always something going on. It's the community is always really being refreshed. So we're going to head back up Highland Avenue here in this part of the tour, and you're probably going to notice as we head back north, there's sort of a transition between mostly commercial, so boutiques, restaurants, and shops. Then you start to get a few residential properties mixed in. And then as we're getting up here really to the north end of Highland Avenue, it is almost completely residential. And I'm going to take you right back up to the north border, where you're going to notice that Chevron gas station. That's sort of the landmark that tells you that you've reached either the end or beginning of El Porto. And we're going to head down 45th, and that's the entrance into the El Porto State Beach parking lot, which, if you own property on the west side of El Porto and you have friends or family visiting during the day or in the early evening, this is probably where they're going to end up parking, if they can find a parking space there, because it will be the most convenient parking available. And also, as we drive through the parking lot, you'll get a view of the famous Strand homes. So these are the large, I guess you can call them mansions, that face the Pacific Ocean. They're the most expensive homes in the beach cities, and the Strand runs pretty much continuously from here in El Porto all the way down through Manhattan Beach, then Hermosa Beach, and into Redondo Beach. Homes in along the Strand, 13, 14, 15 million. The ones that are certainly facing the water, and those just behind, who may be sort of on the side or have a peekaboo view, would be a little bit less. But certainly not a bargain by any stretch. Now, as we're wrapping up our tour, one of the things I wanted to point out, because it is a significant difference between the properties in El Porto and the sand section of Manhattan Beach. The sand section, the layout of the homes, many of the front of the home will open up to what we call the walk streets. So these are pedestrian-only streets that have no vehicle traffic, and there's just sort of like a nice, well-landscaped promenade that runs from the top of the hill up at Highland and then all the way down to the sand. So this is really nice. It gives the homes a very quiet neighborhood feel. There's really no traffic. Access to the homes there are through the alleys in the back, where you would access your short driveway or your garage. And that feature does not exist in El Porto. So if you're looking around and you really say, wow, I really like this idea of having my home open up to this nice kind of pedestrian promenade, and it's quieter and there's no traffic, well, that doesn't exist in El Porto, so that would sort of steer your decision-making back down towards the sand section. So just something to consider. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed the tour of Manhattan Beach's El Porto neighborhood. And if you have any questions about this community or moving to living in the Los Angeles South Bay, remember to reach out. My contact information is here on the screen and in the video description, along with links to search homes in the area. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me, and if you found the video content useful and helpful, please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.